The stars had seen many wars, but none like what was coming to the small blue planet called Earth. Admiral Kethfer stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking at the holographic display that showed their target. His scaled hands moved across the control panel as he studied the data about this new world they would conquer. Kethfer was tall, even for his reptilian species. His green skin bore the scars of 100 battles across the galaxy. For over 300 years he had led the Zephyrian Empire's fleets from one victory to another. No world had ever resisted them for more than a few days. This Earth would be no different. Admiral, his aides spoke in their clicking language, the intelligence reports are complete. This species calls themselves humans. They are primitive and divided. They fight each other constantly. Kethfer looked at the images of Earth cities, their crude vehicles, and their simple weapons. These humans had not even learned to travel between stars. They used chemical rockets that barely reached their own moon. Their most powerful weapons were nuclear bombs that could destroy cities, but nothing more. "How many ships do they have in space?" Kethfer asked. "None that can fight, Admiral. They have small stations and satellites, but no warships. They cannot even leave their own solar system." Kethfer's mouth opened in what his species considered a smile. 12 different alien races served in his fleet. Each one had been conquered by the Zephyrian Empire long ago. Now they all fought together under his command. His fleet had over 800 ships, from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts that could crack planets in half. "Prepare the standard conquest protocol," he ordered. "We will arrive at their world in 7 days. Send the advanced scouts to map their defenses." Far away on Earth, Colonel Jake Mitchell sat in a deep underground facility called NORAD. The room was filled with screens, showing radar data from around the planet. Jake was a career military man who had spent 20 years watching the skies for threats. He had gray hair and tired eyes, but his mind was still sharp. "Sir, we're getting some strange readings," said Sergeant Amy Foster, a young woman who operated the deep space monitoring equipment. "There are energy signatures at the edge of our solar system that don't match anything we've seen before." Jake walked over to her station and looked at the data. The readings showed organized movement patterns that were definitely not natural. "How many contacts?" "At least 50, sir, maybe more." "They're moving in formation toward us." Jake felt his stomach tighten. For decades, the military had prepared for this possibility. UFO sightings had been increasing for years. The government had secretly been developing new technologies based on crashed alien craft. But they had all hoped it would never come to this. "Get me the president on the secure line," Jake ordered. "And contact Dr. Lisa Harper at the UN facility. Tell her we need her analysis immediately." Dr. Lisa Harper was a scientist who studied the possibility of alien life. She worked for a special United Nations program that most people didn't know existed. When she received the call from NORAD, she was in her laboratory looking at samples from meteorites that had crashed on Earth. Years ago, Lisa was a small woman with brown hair and intelligent eyes. She had spent her whole career preparing for the day when humans would meet aliens. She had always hoped it would be peaceful contact. But the military's urgent call suggested otherwise. She drove quickly to the secure facility where the UN Defense Coalition had its headquarters. The building looked like an ordinary office complex, but underground it held some of Earth's most advanced technology. Technology that had been reverse-engineered from alien crashes over the past 50 years. "Dr. Harper," General Maria Santos greeted her at the entrance. Maria was a tough woman who commanded the UN's military forces. She had fought in several wars and had earned respect from soldiers around the world. "We need to know what we're dealing with." They went to the command center where screens showed the incoming alien fleet. Lisa studied the formation patterns and energy signatures. Her face grew pale as she realized what she was seeing. "This is an invasion fleet," she said quietly. "They're not coming to make contact. They're coming to conquer us." General Santos nodded grimly. "How much time do we have?" "Based on their current speed, maybe a week, possibly less." "Then we activate Project Sentinel," Maria said. She turned to the communications officer. Send the code word to all allied nations. Tell them. It's time. Project Sentinel was Earth's most secret program. For decades, world leaders had been preparing for alien invasion. They had built hidden weapons, trained special forces, and developed new technologies. Most importantly, they had created a plan to unite all of Earth's military forces under one command when the time came. Around the world, secure phones rang in the offices of presidents and prime ministers. Military bases that had been disguised as research facilities began to reveal their true purpose. Weapons that had been hidden in underground bunkers were brought to the surface. Captain Alex Stone was sleeping in his quarters aboard the experimental spacecraft Aurora when the alarm woke him. The Aurora was officially listed as a research vessel, but Alex knew better. It was Earth's most advanced warship, built using technology that came from studying alien crashes. Alex was a pilot who had flown everything from fighter jets to space shuttles. He was tall and athletic, with the calm confidence that came from years of dangerous flying. When he reached the bridge of his ship, his crew was already at their stations. "What's the situation?" he asked Lieutenant Amy Foster, his tactical officer. Amy was young but skilled, and she had trained specifically for this mission. "We've got incoming hostiles," Amy reported. "Command wants us to launch immediately for reconnaissance." "How many ships are we talking about?" Sergeant Rick Barnes, the Marine specialist on the crew, looked up from his weapons console. Rick was a tough soldier who had fought in ground wars before joining the space program. "100, sir, maybe more. This is the big one." Alex felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The Aurora was just one ship against an entire alien fleet. But it was fast and maneuverable, and it carried weapons that the aliens wouldn't expect from a primitive human vessel. "Take us out," he ordered. "Let's go see what we're up against." As the Aurora lifted off from its hidden base, similar ships around the world were also launching. Earth's secret space force was small, but it was equipped with the best technology humans could build. Each ship carried a crew that had trained for years for this moment. In the depths of space, Admiral Kethver received reports from his scout ships. "The humans have detected our approach," his aide reported. "They are launching small craft to intercept us." Kethver was amused. "How many ships?" "Perhaps 20, Admiral. All of them are tiny compared to our vessels." "Let them come," Kethver said. "It will save us the trouble of hunting them down later. Prepare to broadcast our surrender demand when we reach their world. These humans will submit quickly once they see the size of our fleet." But as the Zephyrian fleet moved closer to Earth, something unexpected was happening on the blue planet. Instead of panic and chaos, there was determination. Humans around the world were preparing for war. Not the divided, chaotic species the aliens expected, but a unified force ready to defend their home. The stage was set for a battle that would change the galaxy forever. The aliens were about to learn why some worlds should never be attacked, and why no one who threatened Earth ever returned to tell the tale. The Zephyrian fleet appeared in Earth's sky like a dark cloud blocking out the sun. Admiral Kethver stood on his command bridge, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screens. He had conquered 47 worlds in his long career. This would be number 48. "Begin the standard broadcast," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell these humans that their resistance is pointless. They have 1 hour to surrender completely, or we will destroy their cities one by one." The message went out in every human language the aliens had learned from intercepted broadcasts. It was the same message they had sent to dozens of other worlds. It had always worked before. In the UN Defense Coalition Command Center, General Maria Santos listened to the alien ultimatum with a grim expression. Around her, officers from every major nation on Earth waited for her response. They had all put aside their differences to face this common threat. "Send our reply on all frequencies," Maria ordered. She looked directly into the camera that would broadcast her words to the alien fleet. "This is General Maria Santos, speaking for the people of Earth. We have heard your demands. Our answer is simple. Come and take it." Admiral Kethver was surprised by the response. Most species begged for mercy or tried to negotiate. These humans seemed to be challenging him directly. It was foolish, but it would make the conquest more entertaining. "Launch the first wave," he commanded. "Send 200 fighters to destroy their military installations. Show them the price of defiance." The alien fighters were sleek and fast, designed to overwhelm primitive air forces with superior speed and firepower. They streaked through Earth's atmosphere toward major military bases around the world. The pilots were confident this would be easy work. They were wrong. Lieutenant Danny Price was leading a squadron of F-22 fighter jets when the alien craft appeared on his radar. Danny was an experienced pilot who had flown combat missions in several wars, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Bandits incoming from orbit," he radioed to his wingman. "Count is 20+ hostiles. Weapons are hot. Repeat, weapons are hot." The F-22s that Danny flew looked like ordinary military aircraft, but they had been secretly upgraded using technology from crashed alien ships. Their engines were more powerful, their weapons more advanced, and their pilots had trained specifically for this kind of battle. The first alien fighter that Danny engaged expected an easy kill. Instead, it found itself in a dogfight with a human pilot who could match its moves and whose weapons could actually damage its hull. The alien pilot was so shocked that Danny was able to get behind him and fire the killing shot. Around the world, similar battles were taking place. In Japan, Captain Yuki Tanaka shot down 3 alien fighters before they could reach Tokyo. Over Europe, Squadron Leader Ian Wright led his pilots in a running battle that destroyed an entire alien formation. On his command ship, Admiral Kethfer watched the battle reports with growing confusion. His fighters were supposed to sweep aside the human aircraft like insects. Instead, they were being shot down at an alarming rate. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These humans should not have weapons that can harm our ships." His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. "Admiral, their aircraft appear to be more advanced than our intelligence suggested. They are using energy weapons similar to our own technology." Kethver's scaled face showed his anger. "Impossible. Our scouts reported that these creatures were primitive. They cannot have developed such weapons on their own." But the evidence was clear. The human fighters were not just surviving the encounter, they were winning. For the first time in his career, Admiral Kethver was watching his forces lose a battle against what should have been an inferior enemy. Dr. Lisa Harper was monitoring the battle from the UN Command Center. She had been studying the alien communication patterns, and what she discovered was both fascinating and encouraging. "General Santos," she called out, "I'm picking up something interesting from their transmissions. They're confused. This isn't going according to their plan." Maria walked over to Lisa's station. "What do you mean?" "Listen to this," Lisa played. A recording of alien voices speaking in their clicking language. "My translation software is still learning their speech, but they keep using words that seem to mean impossible and unexpected. They didn't expect us to fight back effectively." "Good," Maria said grimly. "Let's give them more surprises." She turned to her communications officer. "Send word to all units. Execute Plan Delta. It's time to show these aliens what humans do when we're threatened." Plan Delta was the activation of Earth's hidden defenses. Around the world, what looked like ordinary buildings began to reveal their true nature. Office complexes opened to reveal missile launchers. Packing garages lifted up to show advanced radar systems. Even some schools and hospitals had been built with hidden military purposes. In New York City, Tony Garcia was supposed to be fighting fires, but today he was fighting aliens. Tony had been a firefighter for 15 years, and he knew every inch of his city. When the alien fighters started attacking Manhattan, he helped coordinate the civilian evacuation while also directing hidden anti-aircraft weapons that emerged from disguised locations throughout the city. "Target is approaching from the east," he radioed to a concealed missile battery hidden in Central Park. "Fire when ready." The missiles streaked into the sky and destroyed an alien fighter that had been strafing a hospital. Tony felt grim satisfaction. These aliens had made a big mistake when they decided to attack his city. Captain Alex Stone and his crew aboard the Aurora were having their own battle in space. The small Earth ship had managed to engage a much larger alien cruiser, and the fight was not going as the aliens expected. "Their shields are stronger than ours," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from her tactical station. "But our weapons are having some effect." "They're trying to box us in," added Sergeant Rick Barnes. "3 more ships are moving to surround us." Alex smiled grimly. "Then we'll have to be unpredictable. Amy, prepare to fire all missiles on my mark. Rick, get ready to reverse engines at full power." The alien captain commanding the cruiser, a being called Veltar, was becoming frustrated. This tiny human ship kept avoiding his weapons and striking at weak points in his hull. The humans were using tactics that made no sense according to standard military doctrine, but they were working. "How can such a small vessel continue to evade us?" Veltar demanded of his crew. "We have superior firepower and numbers." His weapons officer looked confused. "Captain, they are not following predictable attack patterns. Every time we anticipate their next move, they do something different." Veltar had never encountered anything like this in 2 centuries of space combat. Every species the Zephyrians had conquered had followed logical, predictable tactics. These humans seemed to make up their strategy as they went along. The Aurora suddenly spun around and flew directly at the alien cruiser, firing all its weapons at once. It was a suicide attack that should have failed, but the aliens were so surprised by the maneuver that they couldn't target the small ship effectively. The Aurora's missiles struck the cruiser's engine section and caused massive damage before the human ship spun away to safety. Back on Earth, the alien ground assault was meeting unexpected resistance. The Zephyrians had sent down troop transports to capture major cities, expecting the human armies to be disorganized and weak. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. In Los Angeles, factory worker Susan Clark had helped convert her automotive plant into a weapons factory in just a few hours. The same assembly lines that had been making cars that morning were now producing ammunition and simple, but effective weapons for the human resistance. "We've got incoming alien troops at the east entrance," someone shouted over the noise of the machinery. Susan grabbed a rifle and joined the other workers who were defending their improvised fortress. "They want to take our city," she said to the man next to her. "Let's show them what Americans do to invaders." The battle for the factory was fierce but brief. The alien troops had expected to face frightened civilians. Instead, they encountered organized resistance from people who knew their own territory and were fighting for their homes. Admiral Keffer was beginning to realize that this conquest was not going according to plan. His forces were taking heavy casualties, and the humans showed no sign of surrendering. Reports were coming in from around the planet of successful human resistance. "Admiral," his aide approached nervously, "perhaps we should consider withdrawing and returning with a larger force." Keffer's eyes blazed with anger. "The Zephyrian Empire does not retreat from primitive worlds. Order the second wave to attack. Use the heavy cruisers to bombard their cities. These humans will learn the price of defying us." But as more alien ships moved toward Earth, the humans were preparing even greater surprises. The first day of battle had shown both sides something important. The aliens had learned that humans were not the easy prey they had expected. And the humans had learned that they could fight back against impossible odds and win. The real war was just beginning. Admiral Keffer watched the holographic displays with growing frustration. 3 days had passed since the invasion began, and his forces were not winning as they should be. The humans kept fighting back in ways that made no sense to him or his commanders. "Report," he demanded from his tactical officer. "Admiral, we have taken control of several small cities, but the humans do not stay defeated. They keep attacking our supply lines and then disappearing. Our troops report that the enemy seems to know exactly where we are at all times." Keffer studied the battle maps. Red zones showed areas under alien control, but they were surrounded by yellow zones where fighting continued. There were no green zones showing complete pacification. On every other world they had conquered, entire continents had surrendered within hours. What about their leadership? Have we captured their command centers? That is part of the problem, Admiral. They do not seem to have a single command structure. When we destroy one headquarters, another takes its place immediately. Sometimes the new leaders are not even military officers. This was disturbing news. The Zephyrian Empire conquered worlds by targeting their government and military leadership. Once the command structure collapsed, resistance usually ended quickly. But these humans seemed to have backup leaders for their backup leaders. In Detroit, Susan Clark was proving that point. The factory worker had become the leader of the local resistance after the military commander was killed in the first day of fighting. She had no formal military training, but she understood how to organize people and how to use the industrial resources of her city. "We need to hit their supply depot again tonight," she told the group of workers, police officers, and soldiers who now followed her orders. "They're bringing in more troops and we need to slow them down." "Susan, we lost 12 people in the last raid," said Pete Johnson, a mechanic who had become her second in command. "Maybe we should pull back and wait for help from the army." Susan shook her head. "The army is fighting their own battles. We're on our own, and that's fine with me. These aliens think they can just walk into our city and take over. They're about to learn what Detroit tough really means." The group laughed despite the danger. They were scared, but they were also angry. These were people who had survived economic hardships, who had rebuilt their city from ruins before. A bunch of lizard-faced aliens were not going to make them give up now. The raid that night was a success. The humans struck the alien supply depot using trucks loaded with explosives, destroyed several transport vehicles, and disappeared back into the maze of abandoned buildings that they knew better than any invader could. Similar scenes were playing out across the planet. In the mountains of Colorado, Rancher Bill Murphy was leading a group of local hunters and farmers in guerrilla attacks against alien patrols. The aliens had powerful weapons and advanced technology, but they did not know the terrain like the humans did. "They stick to the roads," Bill explained to his group as they planned their next ambush. "They don't understand that in this country you can disappear into the wilderness and pop up 50 miles away. These city boys from space never learn to track game or live off the land." Bill's group had been hitting alien convoys for 3 days straight. They would set up an ambush in a narrow canyon, attack with rifles and homemade explosives, and then scatter into the mountains where the alien vehicles could not follow. The frustrated alien commanders had sent aircraft to hunt them, but the humans knew every cave and hiding place in the region. The aliens were learning that conquering Earth was not like conquering other worlds. Dr. Rebecca Turner, a military psychologist, had spent years studying how humans responded to extreme stress. She had helped prepare Earth's defenders for exactly this kind of invasion. "The aliens are using standard psychological warfare techniques," she explained to General Maria Santos during a video conference. "They expect us to panic when they destroy our cities and kill our leaders. But humans don't respond to trauma the way other species do." "What do you mean?" Maria asked. "We get angry," Rebecca said simply. "When most species face overwhelming force, they submit to preserve their lives. Humans get mad and fight harder. Every civilian they kill creates 10 more resistance fighters. Every city they bomb makes the survivors more determined to fight back." This was exactly what was happening around the world. In Tokyo, an office worker named Ken Sato had lost his family in the first alien bombing. Instead of surrendering, he had organized the other survivors into a network that gathered intelligence on alien movements and passed it to the military. His network had grown to include thousands of people across Japan. Captain Alex Stone was discovering the same thing in space. The Aurora had been joined by other human ships, and they were using tactics that continued to confuse the alien fleet. Instead of fighting like a traditional navy, the human ships acted more like a pack of wolves, coordinating their attacks but maintaining the freedom to improvise. "Alien cruiser coming around the moon," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster. 3 escort ships with it. "Roger that," Alex replied. "Danny, take your squadron and hit them from the left. Maria, swing wide and come at them from below. We'll go straight up the middle and get their attention." The 3 human squadrons attacked the alien ships from different directions simultaneously. The aliens tried to respond, but they were designed to fight against organized fleets with predictable formations. A human attack was chaotic but effective. Like a street fight in space. Sergeant Rick Barnes monitored the enemy communications. During the battle, "Sir, they're getting really frustrated. I'm picking up a lot of chatter about how we don't follow proper combat protocols." Alex smiled grimly. "Good, the day we start following their rules is the day we lose." The Aurora dove toward the alien cruiser, firing everything it had. At the last second, Alex spun the ship around and used the cruiser's own bulk to shield them from the escort ship's weapons. It was a move that could have gotten them all killed, but it worked because the aliens did not expect such a reckless maneuver. Back on the ground, the aliens were trying a different approach. They had brought in specialists in psychological warfare, creatures that could project fear and despair directly into the minds of their enemies. These specialists had broken the will of entire planets before. They set up their equipment in the center of New York City and began broadcasting waves of terror and hopelessness. The alien commanders expected the human resistance to collapse within hours. Instead, something unexpected happened. The humans in the city began to get more angry rather than more afraid. The psychological attack that was supposed to break their will seemed to be strengthening their determination to fight. Tony Garcia, the firefighter who had become a resistance leader, felt the alien mental attack like a cold wind in his mind. But instead of making him want to give up, it reminded him of every time he had run into a burning building to save people. He had been afraid then too, but he had done his job anyway. "They're trying to mess with our heads," he radioed to his teams. "Don't let them. Remember why we're fighting. Remember who we're protecting." The response was immediate. All across the city, humans who had been wavering in their resolve suddenly found new strength. The alien psychological weapon was actually helping the resistance. By reminding people what they were fighting for, Dr. Rebecca Turner analyzed the reports from New York with fascination. "General, I think we've discovered something important about human psychology that even we didn't fully understand." "What's that?" Maria asked. "Fear makes us stronger, not weaker. When we're threatened, we don't just fight back. We fight smarter and harder than we ever thought possible. These aliens are accidentally training us to be better warriors." Admiral Kethver was beginning to understand this as well, but the knowledge only made him more determined to crush the human resistance. He had committed most of his fleet to the battle, and retreat was no longer an option. The reputation of the Zephyrian Empire was at stake. "Bring in the heavy bombardment ships," he ordered. "If these humans will not surrender, we will destroy their cities one by one until they have nothing left to fight for." But even as he gave the order, Kethver was troubled by reports from other parts of the galaxy. Word of the human resistance was spreading. Other conquered species were asking questions about how a primitive world was holding off the mighty Zephyrian fleet. Some were even beginning to resist their own occupying forces. The humans were not just fighting for their own world. Without knowing it, they were inspiring rebellion across the galaxy. Every day they continued to resist. Every small victory they achieved was proof that the Zephyrian Empire could be defeated. In the depths of space, more alien ships were approaching Earth, but they were not coming to join the invasion. They were representatives of species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians long ago, and they were coming to see if the impossible was really happening. Were the humans actually winning? The answer to that question would change the fate of the galaxy. But first, the humans would have to survive what Admiral Kethver was about to throw at them. The real test was still to come. The sky above Earth darkened as Admiral Kethver's most powerful ships entered the atmosphere. These were not ordinary warships, but planet killers, massive vessels designed to break worlds that refused to surrender. The largest of them, called Dominion's Edge, was Kethver's personal flagship and had never failed to end a rebellion. "Begin planetary bombardment," Kethver commanded from his throne on the bridge. His patience with these stubborn humans had finally run out. "Target their largest cities first. When they see their homes burning, they will beg for mercy." The massive energy cannons of the alien superweapons began to charge. Each shot would be powerful enough to level an entire city block. The aliens had used these weapons on dozens of worlds before, and the sight of such destruction always broke the will of any resistance. But as the first devastating beams struck Earth cities, something unprecedented happened. Instead of surrender, the humans did something that shocked every alien commander in the fleet. In London, Commander Ian Wright was piloting a damaged fighter jet when the alien super weapon fired at his city. His aircraft was barely flying, his weapons were nearly empty, and his radio was dead. He could see the massive alien ship charging its main gun for another shot at the civilians below. Ian made a choice that would be remembered forever. He turned his fighter directly toward the alien super weapon and pushed his engines to maximum power. As his damaged plane screamed through the air toward the enormous enemy ship, he spoke into his dead radio, knowing no one could hear him. "For Queen and country," he said quietly, "for all of us." His fighter struck the super weapon's main gun just as it was about to fire again. The explosion destroyed both the human aircraft and the alien weapon, saving thousands of lives in the city below. Ian Wright died in that moment, but his sacrifice inspired millions of others. Similar acts of sacrifice were happening around the world. In Tokyo, engineer Karen Lee was working at a nuclear power plant when alien troops surrounded the facility. The aliens wanted to capture the plant intact to use its power for their own purposes. Karen knew that if the aliens took control of the reactor, they would have a major advantage. She also knew there was only one way to stop them. She locked herself in the control room and began the process of overloading the reactor core. "You want our power plant?" she said to herself as she worked. "Take this instead." The explosion that followed destroyed the power plant, the surrounding alien forces, and Karen herself. But it also took out an entire alien squadron that had been landing nearby. Her sacrifice eliminated dozens of enemy ships and showed other humans that even in death, they could still fight back. Lisa Harper was watching these events from the UN Command Center, and she was making a crucial discovery. She had been studying the alien technology for days, analyzing every piece of data they could gather from damaged alien ships and equipment. "General Santos," she called out excitedly, "I think I've found something important." Maria rushed over to Lisa's workstation, where screens showed complex waveform patterns and energy readings. "What is it?" "The alien ships all use the same basic technology," Lisa explained. "They're connected by quantum resonance fields that coordinate their movements and weapons. But I think we can disrupt those fields." "How?" Lisa pointed to a specific frequency pattern on her screen. "If we can broadcast this exact frequency on a global scale, it should interfere with their quantum systems. Their ships might start having technical problems, maybe even complete failures." Maria studied the data. "What do we need to make this work?" "Everything," Lisa said. "Every radio tower, every satellite, every communication device on the planet. We need to turn Earth itself into one giant transmitter." The plan was risky and would require perfect coordination between every nation on Earth, but the humans had already proven they could work together when survival was at stake. Within hours, the word went out to communication centers around the world. Dr. Carl Brooks, a physicist working with the project, helped refine the transmission frequency. Carl was a quiet man who had spent his career studying quantum mechanics, but now his research might save the world. "The frequency has to be exact," he warned as technicians prepared the global broadcast. "If we're off by even a small amount, it won't work." In space, Captain Alex Stone and his crew were preparing for what might be their final battle. The Aurora had been joined by every remaining human ship, but they were still vastly outnumbered by the alien fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Stone," Alex said into his communicator. He had been promoted during the battle as other commanders were killed or wounded. "We've got one chance to make this work. When the signal goes out, we hit their command ship with everything we've got." Lieutenant Amy Foster, now serving as his first officer, checked their weapon systems one last time. "Missiles armed and ready, sir. If this doesn't work, we're going to have a very short conversation with that dreadnought." Sergeant Rick Barnes was monitoring alien communications. "Sir, they're preparing for their final assault. Looks like they're putting everything into one massive attack." Alex nodded grimly. Then so are we. On the surface, the global broadcast was about to begin. Every human settlement, from major cities to remote research stations, was contributing to the effort. Radio operators who normally competed with each other were now working as one team. Tony Garcia was coordinating the New York portion of the broadcast from his position in the ruins of Manhattan. The aliens had bombed his city repeatedly, but the communication towers were still standing. "All stations ready," he reported. "We're going to show these aliens what happens when you mess with Earth." Susan Clark was doing the same thing in Detroit. Her factory had been converted into a communication hub, and the workers who had been making weapons were now operating radio equipment. "This better work," she muttered as she checked the final connections. "Because if it doesn't, we're all dead." In about 10 minutes, the countdown began. Around the world, humans held their breath as the most important broadcast in history prepared to begin. Every satellite, every radio tower, every communication device on the planet synchronized to transmit the same frequency at exactly the same moment. 5 seconds, came the voice from the UN command center. 4, 3, 2, 1, transmit. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Admiral Kethver was about to order the final bombardment when every screen on his bridge began flickering. Warning lights flashed as his ship's systems started failing one by one. "What is happening?" he demanded. His tactical officer looked terrified. "Admiral, our quantum resonance systems are failing. The humans are broadcasting some kind of interference signal. Across the alien fleet, the same thing was happening. Ships that had been in perfect formation began drifting out of control. Weapon systems shut down. Communication networks collapsed. The mighty Zephyrian fleet was being crippled by radio waves from a planet they had considered primitive. "Impossible," Kethver snarled. "These creatures cannot have developed such technology." But the evidence was all around him. His supposedly invincible fleet was falling apart, defeated by an enemy that had turned their entire world into a weapon that his technology could not counter or defend against. General Maria Santos watched the results from Earth and smiled for the first time in days. "All military units, this is General Santos. The alien fleet is disabled. Begin the counterattack now." What happened next amazed even the humans. Nuclear submarines surfaced simultaneously around the world, launching missiles that had been modified with Dr. Harper's quantum disruptors. ICBMs that had been designed to destroy Earth cities were instead fired into space at alien ships. The irony was not lost on anyone. Humanity's weapons of mass destruction, the tools they had built to destroy themselves, were now being used to save their world from invaders. Captain Alex Stone led the space counterattack. With the alien ships crippled, the small human fleet could finally strike back effectively. "All ships, target the command vessel. Let's finish this." The Aurora and her sister ships attacked the massive Dominion's Edge, the alien dreadnought. Was helpless, its weapons offline and its defenses failing. But Admiral Kethver was not finished fighting. "Prepare for boarding action," he ordered his remaining troops. "If we cannot destroy this world from space, we will take their leaders by hand." The final battle was about to begin, and it would be fought ship to ship, hand to hand, between the alien admiral who had never known defeat and the humans who refused to accept it. The corridors of the Dominion's Edge echoed with the sound of gunfire as human Marines fought their way through the alien flagship. Captain Alex Stone led the boarding party personally, knowing that this battle would determine the fate of Earth. And perhaps the galaxy. Admiral Kethver waited in his command chamber, surrounded by his best warriors. The reptilian commander had never retreated from a battle in his 300 years of life, and he would not start now. Even if his fleet was crippled, even if his superweapons had failed, he would face these humans with honor. "Admiral," Alex said as he entered the bridge, his weapon raised but not pointed directly at the alien leader. "Your fleet is defeated. Your ships are powerless. Surrender now, and we can end this without more bloodshed." Kethver looked at the young human captain with something that might have been respect. "You fight well for primitives," he admitted. "But the Zephyrian Empire does not surrender to lesser species. Then you're about to learn something new, Alex replied. The fight between them was brief but fierce. Kethver was larger and stronger, with natural weapons and centuries of combat experience. But Alex was faster and more unpredictable, using tactics that the alien had never encountered before. In the end, it was not superior strength that won the battle, but something the aliens had never understood about humans. As Kethver pinned Alex to the ground, seemingly victorious, Lieutenant Amy Foster and Sergeant Rick Barnes burst onto the bridge. They could have shot the alien admiral, but instead they helped their captain to his feet and offered Kethver the same choice again. Your war is over, Amy said firmly. You can choose to end it with honor, or we can choose for you. For the first time in his long life, Admiral Kethver found himself facing an enemy that had beaten him not through greater violence, but through greater unity. These humans fought as one, protected each other, and offered mercy even to those who had shown them none. Slowly, the alien commander removed his weapons and placed them on the ground. I surrender, he said quietly. The Zephyrian fleet withdraws from this system. The word of surrender spread quickly through the disabled alien fleet. Ship after ship began powering down their remaining weapons and requesting permission to leave Earth space. The invasion was over, but something much larger was just beginning. Dr. Lisa Harper was the first to notice what was happening in the galaxy beyond Earth. Her deep space monitoring equipment was picking up massive amounts of communication traffic from alien worlds. General Santos, she called excitedly. You need to see this. The word about our victory is spreading faster than light-speed communications should allow. Maria looked at the data streaming across Lisa's screens. What are we looking at? Reports of our battle are reaching alien worlds throughout the galaxy. But more than that, something else is happening. Other species are starting to resist their Zephyrian occupiers. The reports were stunning. On a world called Kepler Prime, a species of blue-skinned humanoids had destroyed a Zephyrian garrison after hearing about Earth's resistance. On the mining world of Titan 7, slave workers had taken control of their facilities and declared independence. It's like a wildfire, Lisa explained. Every species that hears about our victory is asking the same question. If the humans can defeat the Zephyrians, why can't we? Admiral Kethver, now a prisoner aboard his own ship, watched these reports with a mixture of shame and amazement. Do you understand what you have done? He asked Alex during one of their conversations. We defended our home, Alex replied simply. You have done much more than that, Kethver said. For 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire has ruled through fear. Every species believed we were invincible. You have shown the galaxy that we can be defeated. Good, Alex said. Maybe that will convince your people to try diplomacy instead of conquest. But the changes in the galaxy were bigger than either of them had imagined. The Zephyrian Empire was not just losing battles, it was losing the fear that had held it together. Species that had been loyal servants for centuries were remembering what freedom felt like. Dr. Rebecca Turner analyzed the psychological impact of Earth's victory in a report that would be studied for generations. The humans didn't just win a military victory, she wrote. They proved that courage and determination can overcome any technological advantage. That message is more powerful than any weapon. 6 months after the invasion, Earth sent its first diplomatic mission to the stars. Dr. Lisa Harper led the team aboard a new class of starship, built using both human and captured alien technology. Their mission was to make contact with other species and offer Earth support to anyone seeking freedom from oppression. The first world they visited was Kepler Prime, where the blue-skinned aliens called themselves the Vari. Their leader, elderly female named Zalathar, greeted the human delegation with tears of joy. We have waited so long for someone to show us that resistance was possible, she told Lisa through a translation device. Your species has given hope to a galaxy that had forgotten what hope felt like. The humans shared their knowledge freely. They taught other species about guerrilla warfare, about unified resistance, and most importantly, about the idea that freedom was worth fighting for regardless of the odds. Captain Alex Stone, Now Admiral Stone commanded Earth's first interstellar fleet. His ships carried names that reflected human values: determination, courage, perseverance, hope. Each vessel was crewed by both humans and aliens who had joined the growing resistance movement. "We're not conquerors," Alex explained to his mixed crew during their first mission briefing. "We're teachers. We're showing the galaxy that there's a better way to live than under the boot of an empire." The Zephyrian Empire began to fracture as more and more species declared independence. Some Zephyrian commanders tried to hold their territories through increased brutality, but that only inspired greater resistance. Others, like Admiral Kethver, began to question everything they had believed about their right to rule over other species. Kethver had been offered the chance to return to his own people, but he chose instead to remain on Earth and study human culture. "I need to understand how you did this," he told Alex. "How did a species that had never left its home system defeat an empire that spans the galaxy?" "It wasn't our technology," Alex explained. "It wasn't even our tactics. It was the fact that we refused to give up. When you threatened our home, every human became a soldier. When you hurt our people, we got angry instead of scared. And when you thought you had beaten us, we turned our entire planet into a weapon." "But there must be something more," Kethver insisted. "Other species have fought bravely against us before. What made you different?" Alex thought about all the people who had died defending Earth. Commander Ian Wright flying his fighter into the alien superweapon. Engineer Karen Lee sacrificing herself to deny the aliens a power plant. Firefighter Tony Garcia organizing resistance in the ruins of New York. Factory worker Susan Clark turning her workplace into a fortress. "I think it's because we fight for each other," he said finally. "Not for a king or an empire or even for glory. We fight for the person standing next to us, for our families, for strangers we've never met but who share our world. That's not just military strategy, that's love." Years passed and the galaxy changed completely. The Zephyrian Empire collapsed as its member species chose freedom over subjugation. Trade replaced conquest. Diplomacy replaced warfare. And at the center of this new galactic civilization was a small blue planet whose people had proven that being outnumbered, outgunned, and technologically inferior didn't mean being defeated. Earth became a place of pilgrimage for young warriors. From dozens of species, they came to learn from the humans who had changed everything, to understand the secret of victory against impossible odds. But there was no secret, as the visitors always discovered. There was only the simple truth that freedom was worth fighting for, that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when they had something to protect, and that sometimes the best way to win a war was to show your enemies a better way to live. The aliens had learned why no one returned from attacking Earth. It wasn't because Earth destroyed them. It was because Earth changed them, turning enemies into allies and conquerors into friends. The humans hadn't just defended their world. They had defended the idea that every species in the galaxy deserved to be free, and that idea, once planted, grew like wildfire among the stars, creating a galaxy where no one had to fear invasion ever again.